Baruch Hashem, first I want to say thank you to Shlomo and Regina for hosting this event. Baruch Hashem, you are the first to take this opportunity. Emet Outreach started this initiative where they offer couples to organize a class on their own. They choose the day, they choose who they invite, they choose what they serve, and they choose the topic. And Emet sends a rabbi to their home. So they are the first to do it, Baruch Hashem, and they have zechut, they started it. And Bezat Hashem, God willing, they should only see happiness in their home. Their home should become Beit Vad LeChachamim. It should be full of Torah, full of blessings, full of happiness. And Bezat Hashem, we should meet more often, and other people should follow their lead and also organize similar events in their homes. Again, thank you. And today we have a few questions on agenda. First, raising teenagers. How do you explain to teenagers difficult topics about marriage? Where do kids come from? And why it's not good to look at girls for boys? Why it's not good to hang out with boys for girls? That's question number one. Another question is why it's so hard to get married. In particular, why is it so hard to find a good husband? Another question, how do you encourage older kids to do things in the house? How do you raise small children? How do you handle tantrums? How do you deal with children in a second marriage, where you have your children, your wife's children, and children that were born from this marriage? How do you deal with secular influence in the house? What if this secular influence comes from your own children? Another question, why is it so difficult to stay married? Why there are so many divorces? And another question, what is the best age to get married? And another question, why some people are lucky and some people are not lucky? And the last question, if you have a choice to send your kids to Yeshiva but live in a non-Jewish neighborhood, or you can move to a Jewish neighborhood but there's no Yeshiva and you have to send them to public school. There is Jewish environment, but there's no Yeshiva. That's surprising. But you have a choice. Good neighborhood, but bad school, or good school and bad neighborhood. What's more important? Very good. So I will try to touch on some of these questions. And we will start with the beginning. Why is it so difficult to find a good husband? That's where it all starts. And the answer is that to begin with, Hashem said that it's very difficult to bring two opposites together, right? Who divided a husband and wife? Hashem himself, right? He took the first human being, which according to some was a combination of a woman and a man. This human being could give birth, reproduce if necessary, and Hashem said, even though this human being is perfect, it lives in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. It's greater than angels. The angels are serving it. He communicates with God. But Hashem said, it's not good. It's not good for the human being to be by itself. Even though it's perfect, you don't have to date, you don't have to pay for the wedding, you don't have to fight and argue where we're going to live, who we're going to go for the holidays. It's much easier. But Hashem said, no. It's better that there should be division, there should be difference. And He separated them. And now, the man and the woman, they have to search for each other, they have to commit to each other, and they have to work on themselves to be able to accept the opinion of the other, to accept the needs of the other person, the habits of the other person. And that's exactly why Hashem did it. Because when Adam HaRishon, when the first human being was as one unit, it was not a big deal. It was basically like an animal. He was just there, enjoying life. There was no struggle. So Hashem said, that's too easy. I didn't create the whole universe for there to be this human being just enjoying life. I want people to work hard and to work on themselves, to change their character, to break, to show self-control. As one person said, if you have desire, what's the easiest way to go through that desire? Is to give in. That's the best. But then I told this person, if you give in, then soon after, a similar desire will stand in front of you. And you'll have to give in again. And then an even worse desire is going to come. And if your way in life is just the easy way out, I'll just give in. Then you'll go lower and lower and lower until, chas v'shalom, such a person will die. As we see, unfortunately, many people are dying now, not from starvation, but from giving in to their desires. So Hashem doesn't want life to be easy for people. Rather, the way through a desire is to show self-control and to say no to the desire. And to say, I will choose when yes, and I will choose when no. And so marriage gives us this opportunity that there is a person who is equal. It's not a child. I can't just command them what to do. I can't teach them. I can't just criticize them. They're equal. That means I have to become humble. I have to be kind. I have to be forgiving. I have to be patient. And all these things are only possible in marriage. So that's the importance of marriage, and that's why Hashem separated people. And now that He separated people, Hashem says, I can't put them back together. It's very hard. It's as hard as splitting the sea. We come to the ocean, and we can't imagine splitting the ocean. So that's how hard it is to get married. And that's today, always.
No, my generation, no. My generation was 1, 2, 3. I met my man in 2 weeks. I got already there. Get married, and I married with him for 45 years.
Baruch Hashem, it should continue.
Till he passed away.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but that's
sorry.
what happened. But I'm talking about today, because today it's a lot of problem. What I
so
see.
that's a good question. Yes.
I said, why today? The man, it's very hard to say yes, and the woman become more harder, and it become too many divorces.
Yes.
It never has
Yes.
this before. This year, only in Israel alone, in the Jewish community, I don't know about America, just Jewish community in Israel, 35,000 people get divorced. And it's
yes.
not even finished the year. That's not normal in my
Unfortunately.
generation.
So,
Who get divorced? We never heard about
So
it.
in the old times, in my time, in your time, it was easier to get married because people had self-control. They knew how to say no to themselves. And therefore, if there was a person who looked good on the outside, but they knew he's not good for me, I have the strength to say, I'm not going to go there. And when the time comes, I can choose either to party or to get married. I choose to get married when I'm young. When the choice is, should I think about the career or I should think about family? They made the right choice, family. Whereas now it's very difficult. Now in America, they tell you, no, don't think about marriage. Don't think about children. Think about money. Think about yourself. Think about fame. Think about vacation. And so it's much harder for children to say, should I get married or I should think about my career, my business, money, building a house, buying a car, going on vacations. I don't have enough fingers. And it's not a fair competition. For sure it's much easier. I would rather party, I would rather make money, I would rather go to restaurants, I would rather go on vacations, I would rather have no commitment, just enjoy myself without a commitment. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and then when they have a degree, when they have a job, when they have a house, and they have a car, and they've gone to all the vacations, now they say, okay, my parents are pushing me, or I'm mature that I'm starting to think about marriage, so let me get married. And then they open their eyes and they see that half of the people are already married, there's less choice. And then they see that whoever is remaining, they are very choosy because I have a degree, or I have a business, or I have a house. What do you have? And also they become stuck in their habits. I'm used to doing things this way. Don't tell me what to do. For 25, for 30 years, I've been living like this. I'm not going to change for you. You want it like this, and there are no two people that are the same.
No.
And once you establish firmly your habits and your way of life, you will not be able to find another person like you. When you're young, you're still flexible. When you're young, your eyes are still closed. You will accept anyone who is appropriate. But once you get older, you start thinking too much about yourself. You don't want to change. You don't want to give up your comforts. And that's it. You say, I would rather stay alone. It's more convenient. I don't want to share my bed. I don't want to share my shower. I don't want to share anything in my life because I'm used to being selfish. So the answer, how to make it easier to get married, is to get married younger.
I know, but what happened, I understand you because I'm married 18. I understand.
And by the way, that's the best. Excellent. That's the
I'm not going to lie to you. It's the best thing you do.
The best.
Because
Yes.
when you open your eyes, the truth, you become very, very choosy. Why you have blue eyes? No, I want green eyes. No, why you have... That's the truth.
Yes.
Why she's skinny, I want fat. Why fat, I want skinny. Why she's short, I want tall. That's
Now,
it's terrible.
the correct age to get married, of course, is 18. However, in our times, if you want to get married 18, unless you live in a community where everyone gets married 18, you're not going to be able to. Because let's say you raise your children to be mature, to think about marriage from the young age, to do household chores, and by the time they're 18, they're ready. But then you look around and everyone else is immature. There's no one to get married to. So they have to wait. So what happens is that usually girls get ready faster, 19, 20, but boys, unfortunately, and it's our fault because we don't demand from them, they get ready only 23, 24, 25.
I'm sorry, Rabbi, is that our fault as parents?
Parents. And so why right now there is such a concept of shidduch crisis, which means dating crisis. Why you cannot set up marriages properly. One of the reasons is because there is a age gap between boys and girls. Girls are ready earlier, boys are ready later, and that creates two problems. First of all, there's already a generational gap, because nowadays they say every 2-3 years is a new generation. Already a few models of phone changed, cars changed, technology changed, mindset changed, and they can't understand each other. But the bigger problem is, which is a blessing, is that as years go by, our population increases. The people having more children, Baruch Hashem, in all communities, in all Jewish communities. And what happens is that in 4 years, let's say, when the boy turned 18, let's say there were 100 boys and 100 girls. But that boy is not ready to get married. So he has to wait another 5 years. In those 5 years, now there are 120 boys and 120 girls are born because there's population increase. So now boys that are 23, let's say, want to get married to girls that are 18. There are only 100 boys that are 23. And there are 120 girls that are 18. So there is not enough boys. 120 girls can't marry 100 boys. So what happens? 100 girls get married and 20 girls stay behind. Who are they going to marry? Leftovers. But even there are
But don't forget, but in the population, like in Jewish community, there are a lot of gay and lesbian.
Unfortunately.
It's true. In Israel, there come so many people like that.
Right,
So
right.
Another problem.
Another problem, right? But even without other problems, it's already a problem because there is this age gap. You guarantee that 20% of girls are not going to be able to get married.
It's no good.
It's no good.
So what are we going to do about it?
So whose fault it is?
Who?
It's the boys' fault because they're not mature young enough. But who made them not mature? It's the parents' fault, right? So each family now, as we're raising our children, we have to speak to them about marriage. We have to speak to them about being responsible. We have to give them jobs. We have to help them to become mature faster so that when they are ready to get married, the age when boys get ready for marriage and girls is about the same. According to Torah, girls mature 1 year younger. So that's okay, 1 year, but not 5 years. 5 years means we're slacking off as men. We cannot let girls win the game.
But some marriages, they have 10 years difference, you have 20, you have 5
Yes,
years.
it works. It works sometimes, but it's not recommended. Adam and Chava, they were the same age.
same age. אגיד לך את האמת, אתה מדבר עברית? הכי טוב להתחתן כשגבר באותו גיל של אישה.
She says that the best is when husband and wife are the same age.
Not the man older than the woman.
But he's not going to be mature for her.
That's the problem, right? Most men are not mature for women.
To be the
So
same
she
age.
needs someone older. But
The woman is more mature than the man.
What is maturity?
maturity.
Yeah, what is maturity?
So part of maturity is to be able to say no to yourself. to be able to control your desires, to be able to take someone else's desire into account. Basically, this comes to the question about how do you handle tantrums? Why does a child throw a tantrum? A child throws a tantrum because they cannot handle someone else's opinion. I want something and someone else wants something else, and I break down. I cannot handle it. So that's immaturity. And we don't want that a husband should throw tantrum in marriage.
Why don't it try in Yeshiva or in school? I hope so they can do that, to teach the men to be more mature, more so they, because I think everything is from the school.
Yeah. So that goes into the question: what's
And
better,
this is gone.
the
You see,
school?
when we in our time, men, we marry right away. We don't play the game. Today, I think, in my opinion, it's the TV, the stupid phone, the communication.
Yes.
This is what.
Very good. But we cannot change the whole world. We can change only the environment around us. And so the question that was asked: is it more important that your family and your neighborhood should be good, or that the school should be good? So it depends who you put the responsibility on. Who is responsible for raising your children? Is it the yeshiva or the school, or is it the family?
Family. Family.
Family.
Because the
So-
family choose the school.
Right,
the
so
family choose
then it's the
what
family that needs to make sure that their children are mature. And how do you make sure? By learning how to deal with small children, how to handle tantrums, right? And how to encourage children to do their chores.
I want to ask a question.
Yes.
You're saying mature, right? I'm just curious, why, maybe this is my opinion, kids out of public school come out more mature than kids out of yeshiva. I feel like because of the exposure, like not so much.
So what do you mean by mature?
Like there's, I don't know. I feel like it just based on
Mature
my
audience, because they're familiar with
in public
TV
school,
and...
kids come out more mature than
Again, what do you mean mature? That they're familiar with mature content?
mature content, I guess so, and just more exposure to, how do you say it? Everything, everything of the everything, basically, versus out of yeshiva where they come out like they're more limited to what they really are.
Okay, so that's a good
exposed
question.
to.
That's a good question.
They're not as mature.
What you define as maturity, right? So there is a famous janitor in Beit Gavriel. I'm not sure if he's still there. Jamal, if anyone knows him, he's from Haiti. And he told me, when I used to work in Beit Gavriel, he told me, Rabbi, I work here in Yeshiva, and my children go to Forest Hills High School and other public schools. And he says, Rabbi, I see the children in Yeshiva and I see children in public school. So he said, Jewish children that go to first grade in Yeshiva, they're like animals. And children that go to public school first grade, they're also like animals. But Jewish people, when they graduate 12th grade, they become people. But in public school, when they graduate, they become big animals. These are not my words of a rabbi. These are words of a Haitian janitor who has common sense. And according to him, there's a big difference between yeshiva and public school. Now, it's true that kids in yeshiva are not exposed, hopefully, to TV, movies, mature content, sports, aggressive behavior, violence, foul language. They're not exposed, hopefully. And because of that, they're more soft, they're more innocent, they might be not street smart, And we might look at them and say, poor them. How are they going to survive in the world, in this tough world? They don't know anything. But reality shows that who are the most successful businessmen? It's the Hasidim, it's the Ashkenazi Jews who are religious, it's the Syrians who are religious. How is it possible? Hasidim who don't speak English, who don't know calculus, who don't have MBA, how do they build empires? That's financially. And what about family? You look who has the most peace and happiness in their families. It's the same people. They're grabbing everything. It's the Hasidim. They have the most beautiful kids, the largest amount. They have the best marriages. It's the Ashkenazi Jews who are religious. It's the Syrian and the Persian and the Bukharian Jews who are religious. They have the most kids. They have the most wealth. They have the most peace at home. They have the most happiness. How is it possible that people who are growing unexposed to society, they become the most successful members of society? And I'll tell you my personal example. When I was growing up in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, when I was about 14, 15, I looked around, my neighbors, my relatives, friends, and their parents, and I said, let me see what kind of family I want. And I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I saw that every family has problems. And I saw that every husband and wife fight. And I saw that I don't want my family to be like them and like them and like them, like everyone in Tashkent. And I said to myself, you know what? I don't know what a good family looks like because I've never seen one. But I hope there is such a thing. But I have a suspicion that it doesn't exist because I'm looking at hundreds of people that I know, and each one has problems, big problems. They don't want to stay married to each other, they fight, they cheat on each other, they get divorced.
Because nobody want to give up.
They're miserable, they're unhappy. I said, I don't want that. But I didn't know if it exists, marital happiness, until I came to America, until I went to college, and from college I went on a trip to Israel, and in Israel I went to a yeshiva in Esha Torah, and there I visited families in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, for Shabbat, and all of a sudden I saw what I was looking for. I saw husbands speaking politely to his wife, I saw children happy, I saw parents speaking to their children with respect. I saw community that is friendly and united together. And I said, you know what? I don't know if God exists. I don't know if Torah is true. But I do know that I found something that I like. I like these people, and I like their community, I like their families. And since then, I started learning more and more and more until I became religious. And Baruch Hashem, my statistics remain the same. That you only see happiness in marriage and in life among religious people. What's the secret? And the secret is that success in life doesn't depend on being exposed to the world. As one of my cousins said, when she heard that our children don't watch TV, she said, but your children are not gonna know about the real world. They don't live in reality. And I told her, think about what you're saying. You're saying because they don't watch fake TV and Hollywood movies, you're saying they don't live in reality. But your children who are watching TV and who are watching movies, they don't know about the real world. They don't live in reality.
We live in a lies. It's a lies. All the TV is a lie.
So, in reality, when you come out from yeshiva, you learn about how if a cow gores another cow, who is responsible. You learn what if you find money on the street, who does it belong to, can you take it or not? If you borrow an object and it breaks, who is responsible? And you might say, who cares about it? Let's learn about business, let's learn about Shakespeare, let's learn French, American history, social studies, that's more important. And what's going to make you a more mature, more successful, more kind human being? It's not French, it's not the Shakespeare, it's not social studies, it's not business, but rather it's learning about real world. What do you do if your animal hurt someone else? It teaches you about sensitivity, not to hurt people. What if you find an object? You have to return it. It teaches you about the value of other people's money, other people's, not to cheat them, not to lie to them. We learn about Lashon Hara, about how not to hurt people with words. And yes, they might not know about the famous artists and actors, the pop stars. They don't know, hopefully. But they do know about how to be in control of your desires. They do know how to take care of another human being. They do know how to sacrifice your own comfort for the comfort of someone else. And at the same time, they become very smart. Because learning Talmud, or even learning Torah, the 5 books of Moses, requires a lot of mental effort. Every day, many hours. And they don't stay in school just until early afternoon, like in public school. They stay until late afternoon. And in high school, boys stay until 6 p.m. and then 7:30 they come back until 10 o'clock. From early morning till late at night. So what do you think is gonna happen to their brain if the whole day they're thinking? If the whole day they're in a good environment, they're looking at their rabbis, they're looking at other students, they're looking at in the books that speak about ethics, books that speak about law that is social justice, they're gonna come out mature people who are not selfish. They don't think only about themselves. They don't think about their own desires. They're thinking about how to make the world better, how to help others, how to achieve the most in their life. So even though on surface it looks that they're not ready for real life, but in reality, they're much more mature. You know, they made studies how much information a regular kid absorbs in yeshiva. So they found out that when he goes to high school, after 4 years of high school, he absorbs the same amount of information as a public school kid in 4 years of high school plus 4 years of college. Why? Because he learns double the amount of time. He learns morning, afternoon, and evening. And Shabbat and Sunday, we have school on Sunday as well. So by the time a Jewish boy from yeshiva is 18 years old, in his knowledge and in his maturity level, he is the same as a secular boy who is 23. And then they say 2 years of Beit Midrash, which means a yeshiva after high school. So many boys from yeshiva, they don't go to college or start working right away. First they go to yeshiva for another 2 years. In those 2 years, they learn the same amount as a secular person in graduate school, which means another 4 years to become a professor. So a 20-year-old kid has the same brain, 20-year-old yeshiva kid has the same brain as a 27-year-old professor that just graduated Yale or Columbia. And then you ask, why is a 20-year-old kid who goes out into the world, all of a sudden, he's successful in business, he's successful in building a family, more successful than a 30-year-old kid who has degrees from college, who is a professor, who can show a lot after his name, but he can't be a good person, he can't build a family. Everyone runs away from him, people avoid him, he himself hates himself. So many cases of depression, suicide, people are not happy. Why? And then you see, because not only the quantity of information is greater in yeshiva, but also the quality. What we learn. We don't learn information that we don't need for life. We learn only about cases where we see example of people thinking about their actions, people being responsible for their actions. Instead of watching the TV about the lowliest layers of society, we open the Gemara and learn about the highest levels of society, of greatest rabbis, greatest leaders, how they live their life. Okay, so that's in defense of yeshiva education. And therefore, whoever has children in yeshiva, they should be proud. Whoever doesn't have children in yeshiva yet, they should consider it, because it's only for your benefit and for the benefit of your children. I myself didn't go to yeshiva in elementary school or high school. I didn't. And you can say, look at Rabbi Yuhanan, he didn't go to yeshiva and he still came out good.
It's my loss, I have to leave.
No problem. Thank you. And I went to college. I spent 5 years in college. But looking back, if I could change my life, I would say probably half of my college was a waste. And probably half of my elementary and high school was a waste. My worst time of the week was Sunday, because there was nothing to do. And my worst time of the year was summer, because there was no school. So boring. With my children, it's much better. They have school on Sunday, and their summer is only 1 month. So there are many benefits to it. But I can tell you from my personal experience that if you have a good family, and your family teaches you responsibility, your family keeps you on track, and your family shows you good example, then even going to public school is not so dangerous. But unfortunately, who can guarantee that if you put all your eggs in one basket, who can guarantee that that basket is going to survive? So if you have two major influences on our children, actually there are three: your family, the neighborhood, and the school. Your family, you have some control. But who knows? Maybe if you didn't study parenting, you might make a mistake. If you didn't study about marriage, you might make a mistake in marriage, and your marriage, chas v'shalom, might collapse, and it will influence your children. We don't have so much influence on the neighborhood. We may choose a good neighbor, and that's very important, to choose a good neighbor, like Shlomo and Regina chose a very good neighborhood. But we don't know who are the neighbors exactly. Maybe another family is going to move in, and maybe their children are going to be wild or not good. Who knows? It's dangerous. And the school is partially our choice. We can choose the school, but at the end of the day, we're not in the classroom. We don't make decisions. We're not the principal. We're not the teacher. And we don't know who the kids are. And so you try to do good on multiple fronts. You try to have the best marriage. You try to be a best parent. You try to find good friends for your children. You try to have a good neighborhood. And you try to find the best school. So that if one of them fails, others will still support the child. And of course, when we are speaking about the future of our children, we should not take into account money. Because, as one wise man said recently, he said, when a child needs help with his homework and parents are stingy to hire him a tutor, let's say for half an hour, I don't know what the prices are here, let's say it will be $30. They don't want to hire someone for their child for $30 every day to come and help him for homework. There will come a time when the child will fail in school and he'll need a psychologist. And they're going to have to pay $100, $150, $200 for psychologists, for social worker to help the child. And then some parents will say, no, it's okay, he'll survive. I don't want to waste money. And they're not going to pay that $150, $200. Then time will come when the child will need a psychiatrist and rehabilitation. And they're going to have to pay $1,000 an hour. And they're going to have to pay thousands of dollars for the rehabilitation center. And if the parents will say, no, it's okay, he's crazy, but I don't want to spend money on him, then they'll have to spend money for the burial, unfortunately. So you don't try to save money on your children. If your children need the best education and the yeshiva costs money, it's worth it to spend money on yeshiva, because then your children are going to have higher chances of surviving successfully in the world, of marrying successfully, having good children, not ending up, unfortunately, in the hospital or worse, from bad friends. And that is worth to spend money. And if a person is stingy, he says, I would rather send him to public school and save money for my house, or
Sometimes it's not stingy. Sometimes you have to understand, some people don't have money.
It's an economic decision.
economic, yeah, it shouldn't be economic decision.
Some people really don't have money.
Yes, but somehow, whoever is religious, his children are in yeshiva.
But some yeshiva, you have to pay.
Of course, every yeshiva you have to pay.
Okay, but
But-
what happens if you go to yeshiva
But you
and
don't
yeshiva say if you don't pay,
find-
we cannot take you?
And
What are you
yeshivas
going to do?
discriminate.
Well, that's a good question. I'll address it as well. You don't find religious parents not being able to send their children to yeshiva because of money, which means it's only an excuse.
No.
That's not true, depending which
No, some
society they
people-
live in.
there's
In
a
Borough
different-
Park,
there's
the
a
schools
different-
don't cost as much as they do on the island.
So if
Park.
something is important for you,
So move to Borough Park
if necessary,
and sting it out like a sore thumb.
you don't have to. You can dress like them. In life, you are making decisions. In life, you choose the priority. If the priority is economic decision, it's my financial status, it's my house, my business, my car, my watch, and my children are second priority or third priority, then that's the decisions you're going to make. I want to live on 110th Street with a big house, 3, 4 floors. I want this kind of car in my driveway. Where my kids are, I don't know and I don't care. So then that's the kind of life you're going to live. And you're going to say, my mortgage is too much, my car payments are too much, I can't afford to send my children to
But
yeshiva.
then on the other end, there's financial aid, so don't put that aside. There's also financial aid. So
There is
whoever-
financial aid.
So you can
Right.
always do that, apply for financial aid.
Right. As just yesterday, one person said, Rabbi, I cannot send my children to yeshiva. Why? Because my lease is expiring. I have to get a new car, but this time I have to get a better car. And now prices are higher, so I'm paying another $500 more every month. I can't afford yeshiva.
That's not like the
That's the
average
norm.
person.
That's extreme.
That
That's
is not
the
the
norm.
norm. No way.
No, but again.
How many
what we
people you
have
know
is
are
there's
leasing
no way.
new cars and they're saying I cannot
But
afford
those are not the
tuition?
same people that want to send their kids to yeshiva.
Exactly.
I have a friend
Exactly.
of mine.
That's
she-
their
She
priority.
wanted, she
Like
was
she
doing-
said,
she don't
there
have
are
enough
plenty
money
of
to send
families
her
who I know
children to the
personally
yeshiva. She
who
don't
want
have
to
the
send their
money.
kids to yeshiva who really just
The
cannot
mortgage
afford
is so
and
high.
they're normal, humble
If you pay
people
4,000 a
have
month,
humble understandings.
Where are you going to find more money? Think about it. Not everybody
And
makes that
there
kind
are
of
cheaper
Yeah.
yeshivas, but
Yeah,
when you
cheaper
see the
financial
quality
aid.
you're getting,
Quality.
you don't want it. It's like, I don't know how to explain, it's like,
Yes.
go to a butcher, right? They're gonna show you.
You're right.
the good
You're
meat
right. It
versus
is
the-
possible. It is
You get
possible.
more meat, but for less money,
Yes.
but it's like, do you really want it?
But then you have to ask. It's a big topic. Then you have to ask,
You
what
know,
is
you know
priority
what I'm
for
saying?
me? If my child is priority, then I might choose not to live in Queens. Like she said, maybe you'll have to move out. Not necessarily Borough Park,
I just give an example.
yeah, but you might have to move out to an out-of-town community. Out-of-town communities are cheaper, the tuition is cheaper. For example, in Arizona, I heard, they're only paying $100 a month for yeshiva. So if you say, it's important for me, if it's important for me, if it's important for me to send my children to yeshiva, I'm not going to live in Queens, even though it's more convenient with my job, my family, they're going to help me with babysitting. There are theaters, whatever excuses. But if it's important for you that your children should not end up in a hospital, they shouldn't end up in a prison, they shouldn't end up in a Wellwood
That's extreme.
cemetery,
That's extreme.
you hear every day, unfortunately, you should
I know a
stop.
lot of yeshiva boys that I went to school with, that went to jail for a lot of things. Credit card fraud.
How many?
Ponzi
What's
schemes.
the what's the
Just
what's
smaller,
the
it's a
what's
smaller-
smaller?
smaller
That's
ratio,
it.
so.
The statistic or the chances are smaller.
They're not so smart, they got caught.
Okay, good, good.
The small ones got away with it. The smarter yeshiva boys.
Yes. So again, if something is very important for you, you'll figure out a way. You will 100% find a way to send your children to yeshiva. But if it's not so important, then you're going to say, you know what? Being next to my mother is more important. Being close to my job is more important. Having a house in a nice neighborhood is more important. Having a house is more important. You can choose to live in an apartment or to buy a smaller house or buy apartment instead of a house, and then you'll be able to afford it. You can buy a used car. You don't have to lease a new car every 2 years. You can sell your jewelry. And you say, no, I can't sell my jewelry. Not for yeshiva.
It's not worth it to sell your jewelry. If you paid one price for it, you sell it, you're not getting the same price. It's not worth it.
Right. Yes. What I'm saying is that if something is important, you will find a way.
That's all.
Ratzon, right. Nothing stands in the way of your
The best way to
will.
go to the school yeshiva, crying. I don't have money, but I need help. There are people who donate money for the help people children.
Yes, very good. Now you asked a very good question. Why do yeshivas discriminate?
There's two types of discrimination. There's financial discrimination and then there's racial discrimination. So it becomes
Yes. So
a problem.
So I've heard of such stories in Queens, not in other places. In over here, I didn't hear such stories. 5 times I didn't hear stories. Muncie doesn't happen. Arizona doesn't happen. For some reason, only in Queens, it happens.
Too much population, less schools.
So why does it happen? And unfortunately, I've spoken to administrators in Yeshiva, and they told me, you know what, we got burned too many times. A husband and wife, they come and they cry, and they say, we don't have money. And we give them a break, and then they go around the corner, they put their gold rings and Rolex, and they go on a Mercedes, and they go into a fancy mansion. And we saw this happening too many times. We stopped trusting this community. They took advantage of us. And so, unfortunately, who pays the price? It's the younger generation who are trying to send their kids to Yeshiva, and the Yeshiva says, if you're Bukharin, we're not giving you a break. Why? Because too many Bukharians lied to us.
They know Bukharians got money, that's it, they know.
They have, the truth, they have people who don't have money.
Yes.
Not
see all the
everybody,
weddings.
but some people who cry for money, they want everything for
They
free.
see all the weddings on Facebook, they know Baharians, they know what's up. But I'm saying also,
Yes.
there's a lot of racial discrimination, meaning if you're Baharian, or like, let's say, you go to one school, they don't accept you. Maybe if you're different
This is in
nationality.
Israel more.
Yes,
because
so
in Israel,
now that's
Israel,
another
you go to
question,
Ashkenazi,
yes.
You cannot go to Sephardi.
Right.
But it's
Why-
very bad. We all Jew. We're not
Why
allowed
do
to be this.
Ashkenazi yeshivas have a quota on Bukharian kids?
That's right.
And the answer is because, unfortunately, Bukharian kids come to school with problems. Or very often, they come from homes where they hear cursing, they witness abuse, physical and verbal, to themselves and one spouse to another. They come from homes where there is TV, there are smartphones. They see bad things. They come and they start talking about it to innocent Ashkenazim. And they teach them bad words, they teach them bad things, and they treat them the way their parents treat them. They scream at them, they beat them up. And Yeshiva says, we can't have too many Bukharians. It's too dangerous. They're going to destroy the school. So they say, we can only have small, they have to stay minority. We can only have 5 out of 20 kids in every classroom Bukharian. And by the way, that's good for the Bukharian kids. If there are too many of them, they see bad things at home, and they're going to come to school, they share bad things with each other. At least when they're among Ashkenazim, and the majority Ashkenazim, they assimilate and they see good things. They learn good things from their classmates. But it's a problem that we ourselves created, both financial discrimination and racial discrimination because of our behavior.
So are you saying, just based off your statement about the Baharian kids in the Ashkenazi schools, so if that's true, then majority Baharian yeshivas, all those kids should be like rampant and wild, but they're not.
They are.
It's harder. It's harder to control the class. It's harder to have a child who will not be exposed to bad things that you don't want. Because in an Ashkenazi school, it's more or less, everyone is on the same level. By Bukharians, each person is on a different stage, in their life. Some just look religious, some just keep Shabbat, some just keep Shabbat and Kashrut, some keep more, some keep less. Each person is different. They all go to the same yeshiva. Like one mother called me and she said, Rabbi, my child, 11 years old, he came home and he told me that from yeshiva, he said that another Bukharian kid pulled out a smartphone from his pocket and they started watching YouTube videos. And he asked her inappropriate questions like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And she said, where did you hear these words? And he said, my friend on the bus told me, we're now going to watch those kinds of videos. And he started showing him. You know, unexpected. Something you have to be beware of. But you can't be, because you don't know what's going on in those families.
But we also had a shock of our lives when our son came home, and they're all in Ashkenazi yeshivas, with language of the bus, and they all have smartphones. They all have the Game Boys and whatever else.
Yeah, you
They all
choose,
go to school.
right.
But we chose a more yeshivish
You choose the school,
setting.
you choose the setting,
Right?
you choose.
No.
Yes.
The school that you have is a mix.
It's
Like
a
Robert
mix.
said, It's a mix. It's a mix.
Higher than another school.
It's the
Right, for
level
sure.
that
Baruch Hashem, it's better. But you know, even I used to teach in a yeshiva high school, and one of the boys in my high school, he happened to be a son of a rabbi here in Queens. And one time I was talking to him, and he said, "You know, Rabbi, my father doesn't know what I'm exposed to." He said, "My father doesn't know what I go through every day. My father doesn't know what kind of temptations I have, what kind of opportunities I have every day. If my father would know, he would never send me to yeshiva." And this is a son of a rabbi. So yes, it's important to choose the best school possible. It's important to have the best family possible, to know how to deal with children, how to deal with your spouse. It's important to have conversation, to be open with your children, that they should not be afraid to tell you anything, not to judge them, not to put them down, not to scream at them, to be open with them, to share with them, they share with you. It's very
You have to
important.
make your children friend, because if you make them friend, they will tell you everything, and if something wrong, you can help them instead to scream at him. You never judge.
Right,
You
very
try to
important.
help. You have
Yes.
children, even they come, if they did something very bad, never scream at them. No. Talk to them. Help them. Because if you scream at them, they're going to make it worse. And they'll be no good.
Yes.
My daughter, when she was, anything she do, she come tell me, we become best friend from the childhood. I tell her, you never hide from me anything, because that's the only way I can help you. If you hide from me, I cannot help you. And I never scream at her, never. We talk. You know, sometimes
Baruch
we be
Hashem.
talking, but never scream. Ever.
Very good. By the way, it's important to listen to advice of people who already went through the experience. And I know one of the best pieces of advice that I received from an older woman that already had grandchildren, and she told me, "You know, Rabbi, when I was a young girl, I had a brother, and we used to fight. And my mother would always stop us, and she would always separate us. And we were always upset at our mother. Why doesn't she let us fight? I want to beat him up. Why doesn't she let me?" And she said, "When we grew up, we hated each other. And I still hate my brother. Why? Because my mother didn't let me beat him up. And my brother hates me because I hurt him and he never beat me up. So we both hate each other and we cannot overcome it. And we both hate our mother because she didn't let us fight when we were little." So she said, "Rabbi, when you have children and they fight, let them fight." And I said, "You know what? I had a similar experience. When I was a little boy, I had a sister. And we used to fight. And my parents and my grandmother, they couldn't stop us. And so we fought. And Baruch Hashem, every time we fought, a few minutes later, we would make up, we would start playing together. And my grandmother would come and say, "I don't understand, you were just fighting, why are you playing?" And I understood from it that because I remember my thoughts. Every time we fought, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I shouldn't have hit her so hard. You know what? She's crying. I feel bad for it. Let me go and be nice to her. Let me share. And she thought the same thing about me. And so when we grew up, we are the best friends. We love each other and we care for each other. So that's a very important piece of advice, that if your children are fighting, you allow them to figure it out themselves. Because children usually fight because they cannot share. Because they cannot share. And by stopping them and deciding for them and judging the situation for them, you don't give them ability to learn how to mediate, how to resolve conflicts. And another reason why children fight is because very often the younger child bothers the older child. And then the older child hits the younger child, and then the parents get involved. And then the older child gets upset at the parents because they didn't see that he started it. And the older child is upset at the younger child. And then the younger child learns that if I want something, all I need to do is cry, and my parents will come to my defense. And if I need to get my older sibling into trouble, I just have to come and bother them, and my parents will come to my help. So what you're creating is hatred between children, and what you're creating out of your little child, someone who knows that by complaining, by whining, by bothering others and pretending, playing a victim, I will get ahead in life. And these are not skills that we want to teach our children. And unfortunately, your older child loses his trust in you because he sees that you're not just. You're judging the situation without seeing what happened. And so the best way is to say, when my children, I see they're getting into a fight, I tell them, if you fight, I let. But don't cry afterwards. I'm telling you now that if you fight, chances are you're going to get hurt. Chances are one of you is going to get injured. Do you agree to it? Do you want to take the chance? Then fight. And they fight. And then they cry, but they don't come to me. Because that's
You
it.
leave him alone.
Make a new one.
Okay, so that's about sibling rivalry. When children fight, leave them alone. Now, just one more topic for today is how to deal with tantrums. And we're just going to start it, but not finish because it's a big topic as well. But just the general guidelines.
Next, he's doing next.
Chazaku Baruch. So, how do you deal with children who cannot accept a no? They ask you for something, you say no, and right away fountain is released. And parents also call me and they say, we're embarrassed in front of our neighbors. What are our neighbors going to say? Or children are very smart. They know when to cry. Say, when we go to the store and my child says, I want this candy. And I say no. So the child looks around. He sees that people are watching. And he starts screaming and stamping feet and laying on the floor, wiping the dust off the floor of the store, and you're embarrassed. So you're forced to give in and to buy for them whatever they want. Or they scream for 20 minutes straight, and you can't handle it, and you say, okay, fine, have it. Leave me alone. So that's not the right way to deal with tantrum. What's the right way? As was one rabbi said, that no one ever died from crying. And sometimes children will throw up, and they sometimes will suffocate, and sometimes they will even lose consciousness, and sometimes they'll just fall asleep because they're too tired. But it's not dangerous. So that's number one. You have to remember that if a child cries, it's not dangerous, it's okay. Let them cry. Number two, you have to remember that the parent is the boss in the house. The child is just a child. In too many families, the child becomes the boss, and parents are slaves. And what happens is parents rebel against their master, and then they beat up the master. So what happens is parental abuse, because children are bossing parents around, and then there's child abuse because parents lose themselves and they beat the children up. Chas v'shalom. But if parents remember who is the boss, and they remember that when I say something, the child needs to listen, and I don't change my mind, I don't give in, then eventually children learn the lesson. Which means parents' no has to be a no, and the parents' yes has to be a yes. Which means if a child asks you something, make sure you don't just give an answer. First think about it. Very often when children ask us, the first reaction is to say no. No, I'm busy. No. And then they ask, and they bother us, and they pester us, and they nudge us. And then we get tired, and we say, okay, no, what do you want? And then we say, okay, fine, have it. Just leave me alone. Or even if we say no again, they don't give up, and they continue until we can't handle it anymore, and we say no. We say fine, have it. So the first advice is, when a child asks you a question, think about it. And if you don't have to say no, don't say no. Because once you say no, you have to stick to it. Cannot change your mind unless you find out new information. For example, you say, oh, now I understand what you want. I didn't understand what you meant before. That's okay. Or you say, you cannot do it this way, but if we change the situation and with certain conditions, then I'll let you. So a parent can change his mind if the situation changed or information changed. But a parent cannot change his mind because he's tired. A parent cannot change his mind because he can't handle it anymore. Because that shows weakness of the parent, and the child now realizes that I have a chance to get what I want just by annoying my parents, just by crying. And then you're giving them a boost. Next time they want something, they will cry longer because they know eventually they're going to get it. It's only when you don't react to their crying, you don't react to their tantrum, they get the message. If my parents said no, it's a no. Okay.
What happens if you feel bad for them? They're going crazy, they're crying,
Yes.
they're like turning blue and purple.
Yes, you have to remember.
They have river of tears.
Yes, you have to remember.
What do you do?
You have to remember why you said no.
What do you tell them? Tell them, don't worry, you're not going to die, just
Yes,
keep
exactly,
doing it.
exactly. You have to remember that when I said no, I had clear mind. Before they confused me, I had clear mind. I knew what they're asking me is not healthy for them. What they're asking me is dangerous for them. It's not appropriate for them. And I made a decision. And I have to stick to my decision, even though they're torturing me. And now I'm willing to sign any paper. I'm not changing my mind, because I made the decision that it's not good for them.
And you think eventually they're going to give up?
Yep.
Yes.
Again, until the information changes or the situation changes.
Why? Because they are not as strong as you are. You are stronger. They're not in control like you
We're
are.
stronger, they're younger, they have more, they can stand, they can cry for hours.
Let them. You put
We
in,
have
you put,
our ears, we're older,
you
we're
put
sensitive.
earplugs.
We can't handle it.
Order on Amazon
But I tell you
earplugs.
something, you want to handle a child, that's what I do with children. Sometimes, if a child crying, say to me, you don't stop, I'm going to punish you. Example, if you 1 a week you give it him ice cream or something he loves so much, try not to give it him. He said, if you continue crying, the favorite stuff you want, I will not give it you to eat that day. Or you're not going to eat tonight.
Yes, that's
a
an
good
option.
Oh yeah, it's
That's
a
an option, but
It never works. I say honestly, it's a good strategy.
No.
It never works.
You know
The-
what?
Put the child in a room,
Here, a
right?
child.
Lit room.
I said to him, you
Bring
see,
him out only when they start crying. Once they start calming down, bring them out. If they start crying, okay, you're not ready yet, you will come
yes,
back
that's
to
also a
the
good
room.
that's
option.
you take him, or you,
I'm a pro at
or
this.
sometimes you can take the child, say to him, you know, you cry, I put you in the room and I lock you the door for a few hours. I want to see, you're not going to go, this is your punishment. Like, or you put
This
him
is
in
the old
closet.
way. This
You
is
can't
the-
go
the-
right. You
the
can
good
put
way.
him just to make him afraid. You know what? He said to him,
Consistency, yes.
He start to cry, I
And
put him
the-
back.
What
He
about-
don't want to do that.
Yes, yes. What
It's a
about
little child now.
what about instilling it by fear? Like you buy a cage, right? And you point to the
No, no,
cage.
no,
and
No,
say,
no, 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 no.
If you don't stop, I'm gonna put you in the cage.
No.
You don't put him in the cage.
You
But
take,
just to
you
just to
put him in the closet. He
use-
said to me,
No closet, I
say-
told you
to instill-
before.
can you use fear? My question is, can you use it? Don't do it, but can you use it?
closet,
So once you mention it, are you allowed to threaten children?
Right.
And the answer is you can only threaten them with something that you are going to do.
Right. I got you.
Otherwise, you're
Okay.
not allowed.
If you're
First
not
of
gonna
all,
do it, then-
first of all, you make a liar out of yourself in their eyes, and second of all, they will see that you're weak. You're only threatening. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna send you to
I'm not
Alaska.
killing you. Cannot say I'm going to kill
I'm-
you. You
So
can
they
say
see
that
that
they're
you're
gonna
weak.
kill
Right,
you.
it's false. It's false.
It's false.
like, yeah.
Or especially, it's very dangerous to put fear in them that may stay with them forever. For example, in the olden times, people said, "Oh, if you cry, Babaika is gonna come and he's gonna take you away." So that's not allowed, because you're not allowed to psychologically injure your child
Got it.
just because you don't know how to handle the child. You can say, "I'm not going to give you ice cream." You can say, "Tomorrow your bedtime is going to be earlier." You can say, "You're not going to be able to go to your friend, to go to the party, to go to the pool, play game."
You're not coming with us to the vacation. We go to vacation, we leave you here. You're not coming with us. You don't want to do that. You want to go. Stuff like that. You have to do something, because usually a child, you don't beat him. Ever.
Yes,
You don't beat him.
that's
Talk to him.
good.
If he's very, very like stubborn, say to him, you know what? You give me hard time. Okay, I'm going to put you in the closet. When you come down,
I'm gonna give you my ass. Just come to the house.
Yes.
They're gonna believe you more than me.
I can't do it. I'm going to show you how to do it.
Exactly.
I will see the picture.
So behind.
My kids are never gonna believe me.
What?
They don't
So
take me
If
serious.
they're never see it, then it's a problem.
she's
you have
asking
to
a new
behave-
question.
You have to behave
The
like
question-
you are the man. And
that's true.
one of them. You cannot teach him and then like you're weak. You have to tell him you are the man of the house.
Yes.
If not, they don't listen to you.
So the new question is, until what age can you punish your children with this thing? The good news is that eventually it gets easier. And the earlier you start, the easier it is for them and for you. If a child is under 2, if they're just 1, let's say, and they ask you for something, and sometimes you give it to them, sometimes not. They cry, you don't give it to them. Then when they become 2, they're not going to go through terrible 2s. Why? Because they already learned when they were young, when it's easier. When you wait until they're 2, then you're gonna suffer and they're gonna suffer. If you wait until they're 4, they're gonna suffer more and you're going to suffer more. It's going to take longer. If you wait until they're 6 or 7, everyone is going to suffer much longer.
You just shut their mouth.
But the earlier you start, the earlier you'll end.
You have to teach them when they're young, not when they're older.
So hopefully,
No, listen, it's all doable, don't worry.
yes,
wanna help
once you establish your authority and children recognize that you are the boss and they listen to you at a young age, when they're old, they're going to listen to you just the same. They're going to be in awe of you, they're going to respect you, even though you're not going to beat them up, but they respect you. Why? Because they got used to listening to you. However, once they reach a certain age and you didn't
Instill that.
finish the process, you didn't instill that, you can no longer put them in a closet.
And,
You can,
no, it's only with the children. You know what? I tell you, I have my brother-in-law and my sister. She have a son. She have a little boy. The father always, he always crying. He always like he want something. He can say to him. So one day he cried. He put them in closet. He said, "This is your punishment. When you stop crying, I take you off from the closet." So after 2 seconds, you don't put him a long time. 1 second. He say, "You stop to cry." He say, "Okay, I stop." He go back again. He do the same thing again. Now because he know what he doing. When the father look at him like this, he say, "Okay." He go by himself to the closet, and he say, "Father, it's the time is over. I can go out." You got it? Because he teach him that way. So he go.
There he goes. He's set up.
He's so cute. He go to the closet and he say, "Father, it's time. It's gone."
very good. And this is
Yeah.
That's
this
impressive.
is normal.
That's very
This is
impressive.
how it will be. If you're consistent,
Yeah.
your children will understand what you
Yeah.
want from them, and they'll do it.
But you see, the child's not afraid of it anymore. He already knows, like, okay, I'm just gonna go to the closet.
No, but
Yeah.
He knows the
But he
consequence.
understand-
That's
yeah,
why he's
he
not
understands the
screaming.
concept.
He learned to calm down himself and then come out.
What he do? He go by himself
He
to the
realizes
closet.
it. He
He waits
realizes
few
it. He
minutes
just
and he
looks
say,
like, "Oh,
"Father,
I gotta
it's
go.
okay now.
I
I'm
know- I
good.
know where I
I'm good.
gotta
I
go."
will be good." He go out. If he do again, he say, "Oh," and he go back to the closet.
Yes.
But he
yes.
learns. He know when to stop because he know. Sometimes they do mistakes.
And they
Children,
they go to
babies.
Yeshiva or public school?
What?
That kid.
No, not yet. He's only
They go-
3 years old
okay.
right
So
now.
another,
I just taken a survey.
there are many
But he
concepts.
will go to yeshiva. They're very religious.
There are many things we need to learn, and we're just touching on things, but you really need to spend much more time studying the subject of parenting. But one of the main things is to respect your children, not to ignore them, not to show them that they're not important as people. And that's the answer, how to treat teenagers. Teenagers, you cannot boss them around, you cannot command them, you cannot force them to do anything. They're already strong. But you can only win with respect. You have to speak to them like adults, and from teenagers we learn to younger children. Just like you speak to a teenager as equal, as adult, someone with respect, a human being, so too you have to speak with children. Not speaking to them in a childish language. Even though you're nice and smiling, but when you speak to them as a child, they're thinking to themselves, I don't know how to speak properly, so I speak like that. But they know how to speak properly. Why are they pretending? Are they making fun of me? So eventually they will accept it and they learn. But the problem is that you are keeping them in that young age forever. Let's say at 2 years old they can talk like that. When they are 3 years old, they're supposed to already talk like an adult. But if you continue talking to them in a childish way, they're gonna stay like this until they're 4 and 5 and sometimes into adulthood. You'll still have to speak to them like a child. And then that habit stays. And then even, maybe we can see it with our parents, when we grow up, our parents still treat us as children. They don't listen to us, they don't respect us, they don't consider our opinion. We tell them something and they say, no, you should do this. But it's not good for me. I don't care, you should do this. You don't know what you're talking, you're just a child. Even if you're already grandfather yourself, they're still gonna tell you you are a child. Why? Because that's how it began. With disrespect. You're a nobody. You're just my child. You have to listen to me because you should not have your own opinion. When we say that the parent is the boss, we don't mean that the child doesn't have opinion, doesn't have his own independence. Rather, even though you are your own and your opinion is valuable, but in the family there is a hierarchy, there is a system. We have the commander and we have soldiers. Right now I'm the commander. When you grow up and you build your own family, you're going to be the commander. And just like at a job, the worker can have his own opinion and it's valuable. But at the end of the day, whatever the boss says, that's what goes. The boss listens to the workers, considers it, implements it, but at the end of the day, he is deciding. In the army, the same thing. Soldiers have an opinion, they have independence, but whatever the commander says, goes. So, being the boss is not against the concept of respect. Treating your children like babies goes against the concept of respect, and treating your children as slaves also goes against concept of respect. How do you treat your children as slaves? Just like I described, when you don't take into account anything they say. You ignore them. You're a nobody. I'm the boss, whatever I say goes, and I don't even want to consider your opinion. And unfortunately, there are such cases as well, where the father figure is also the boss figure, and he's also the mafia figure, and he is the tyrant figure. Everyone is afraid, the wife and the children. And of course, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you being the boss in the family, but at the same time you listen. What do you need? What do you think? I'm going to listen to everybody. I'm going to consider everybody's opinion. However, the decision is up to me. So if your child talks, you have to listen. And you have to make it look like you're thinking, even if you already know the question and you already know the answer. But out of respect, let them finish, look at them, think a little bit, and then say no. Because then they're going to take you more seriously. Otherwise they're going to say, I didn't even finish asking, they already say no. They're on their phone and they're already saying no. Instead, listen to them, pretend, at least, it's good to think about, but if you already know the answer, pretend that you're thinking, and with respect say, no, this is not good for you. And another, the last thing I'm going to say, unless you have more questions after, another way to deal with tantrums is to continue saying the same thing again and again. And they say, but why? And you tell them, because it's not good for you. Or you say, because I said so. And they say, but why? But what if it's like this? But he has it, but I want. And you say, no, because I said so, or because it's not good for you. And after a while, they're going to give up. Because when you say the same answer, it becomes their responsibility to change the way they ask. And they have to start thinking hard. What else can I ask so that my parents should consider? Instead of thinking, oh, I already said it, what else can I say? How can I convince them? we shouldn't try to reason with children, because when desire is working, logic doesn't work. If a child wants ice cream, you can tell him from today till tomorrow that it's not healthy, that it's time to sleep, that his teeth are gonna rot. He doesn't care. I want ice cream. So instead of making a hard job for yourself, trying to figure out how to answer your child, make it hard for them. No, I'm willing to listen if you have something new to say. Think about it, take time. Think of other reasons why you need ice cream, why it's good for you, and I'm willing to listen. Let them work hard and figure it out, but at the end of the day, say the same answer. No, it's not good for you. Why? Because that's what I decided, that's what I feel. And at the end of the day, you can listen to everyone, but you make the final decision. And even if you say yes, it should be your decision. They shouldn't feel that you said yes just because they bothered you. Think about it. Think if you can afford to say no, if you have the strength, if you have the patience to listen to them. If not, it's okay to be lenient sometimes, but not because you're giving in. No, because you decided that in this case, it's okay. So even when you say yes, they still see you as the boss. You thought about it, you considered, and you said, it's okay. So both saying no shouldn't be quick, and saying yes also shouldn't be quick. They should see that you are thinking and you are making a decision, and then they'll understand that you are the decision maker in the family. You are the boss. Okay. Thank you for joining
You're welcome.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you to Shlomo and Regina. Baruch Hashem. May we see each other again and again, and every time we meet, we should, in Muncie, every time we meet, we should share stories of success, that we put into practice what we learned, and we see it works, because it does work. It has been tried and tested by previous generations, by current generations. For thousands of years, same methods were used. It's only the modern world has problems with children. Until recently, there were no problems.
The problem is what the children today, they become too much to a lot of parents, because today the parents, first of all, they have no patience. That's one. They don't have no patience. Second, they are too much pressure. They need money, they need this, they need too much pressure, so they don't have patience for the children. That's very important. If they have more patience, it's work better. But they don't have the patience.
And the reason why they don't have patience is because children are not important. It's more important to watch the news, YouTube, TV.
Take it off the TV from home, it's all poison, by the way. No TV in home. Poison. Sorry, but I'm telling you it's poison.
That's what my mother used to say also.